Well, hello everyone and welcome to another growing guide here at Larry's Orchids. Today we're going to be doing a growing guide on Cattleya Alliance seedlings. So if you're here to know about Cattleya Alliance blooming size, that's going to be in a separate video. We've divided them up into two separate videos simply because the seedlings have a few more kind of tips and tricks and hands-on things that you're going to want to pay attention to that apply solely to the seedlings that differ them from the blooming size. We do sell both types, the seedling and the blooming size here at Larry's Orchids. So you can check the link in the description box below for the other video, and you can also find everything that we carry at larrysorchids.com. Also, we're going to talk, before we get started, about Cattleya Alliance. We get all the time a question of, is the Cattleya Alliance a Cattleya? The Cattleya is a specific orchid within the Cattleya Alliance. So the Cattleya Alliance is a very broad group that covers a lot of different varieties of orchids. So you want to know your varieties that fall under the Cattleya Alliance group so that this video can help you out, because this video is going to cover all of them, not just Cattleyas, but the Cattleya Alliance. So hopefully you will learn something new, and if you do, that means that I'm doing something right. So when it comes to the seedlings, the thing that you're going to want to first note is that the care is going to be very, very similar to the blooming size orchids. However, the two things you're going to change that we're going to touch on immediately are the watering and the fertilizing. When it comes to watering and fertilizing, that is the only differing factor from the blooming size. So when it comes to watering, you want to make sure that the plant is moist. You don't want the plant to dry out. So don't get it on a set schedule where, oh, I water every Friday, or oh, I water every Thursday. Don't do that. Just don't do that right now. You want to pick up the pot. Actually, literally get hands-on and pick up the pot so you know if it's dry or wet. And over time, you'll feel a weight difference. When it comes to fertilizing, we like to fertilize more frequently than the blooming size orchids, because we're trying to get them self-sustaining. And getting them self-sustaining is honestly the hardest part. They are more hands-on, and that is what I love about these orchids, is that they are so hands-on and that you get to work with them a lot more frequently, and it gives you that self-gratification of starting something from the beginning and getting to see it to fruition, being the flowering stage, which is such a great project. And in my opinion, I love it. I would never start from something other than a seedling, and that's just based on my growing style though. So when it comes to the fertilizing, you're going to want to fertilize much more frequently. Here at Larry's Orchids, we like to use an in-house fertilizer, and I'm going to post a link to where you can get it in the description box below. But it actually is a color-coded fertilizing regimen, and we call it the 3-in-1. And that is three weekly feedings of the green, and that's just the regular nitrogen-rich orchid food. And then you want to switch over to 1 week of the purple, which is the bloom booster. And even at a seedling stage like this, they're going to respond very well to it, because changing up their diet is going to give them a differing amount of nutrients, and they're going to be more healthy and more robust, and they're going to grow very well for you doing that. And so that's really all that differs them from the blooming size. So now we're just going to go into basic growing guide tips, which is the sunlight and the humidity and temperature. Those are the only other things that we're really going to cover. So when it comes to repotting, if you're interested in that, we actually have another video dedicated solely to repotting your Cattleya Alliance orchids, because of the fact that that would have taken more time than we have for this video. So when it comes to the sun exposure, that is very, very, very crucial. I cannot stress that enough, that getting the right sun exposure can mean the difference between a dead plant, a plant that doesn't flower, or a plant that does amazing. And that range is about 60 to 70% sun exposure, and that's going to be your south-facing window with blinds, shades, shears, whatever you call them, something to filter the sunlight so that you don't have the harsh sun beating down on these leaves. You're going to note that the color is going to be a lime green, that is a very healthy orchid leaf. If it's super dark forest green, that means it's not getting enough sunlight. And if it's looking like it's burned, you're giving it too much sun. So you want to make sure that you look at the color of your orchid leaves, because the orchid leaves will tell you a lot about what it needs to be healthier. Now the next thing is temperature. A lot of times people, they have obviously temperature variances, but a lot of times people don't realize that the temperature variance is so crucial when growing your orchids. So if you have a temperature variance of about 15 degrees, that's going to be optimal. That's ideal. You don't need 15 degrees, but that's kind of the industry standard that we like to push, is that if you can get 65 at night and around 80 degrees during the day, that is the perfect ideal temperature range for your Cattleya orchids. Now, if you can get it even 5 degrees, they're going to do perfect, which typically happens anyways, just based on the fact that there's no sun out, so the temperature does drop about that much. So that's not something that we really like to stress, but if you can turn on the air or get some cooler air in the house during the nighttime, your plants are going to respond very well to it. And so that's just like something we like to note. And the last thing is the humidity. They are tropical, so they are going to benefit from higher humidity. However, if you cannot give them 80% humidity, don't fret. They're going to do just fine in 45 to 50, but they're going to grow better in 80. And that's one thing that we like to do at Larry's Orchids, is all these tips and tricks that we give you, they are for ideal conditions. And plants will grow in less than ideal conditions, but obviously as orchid growers and as hobbyists, we like to give them the best that we could possibly give them. And so that's what we're doing here, is if you can replicate some or all of the things that we give you, that's going to give you a very healthy and actually the healthiest orchid than something growing in a little bit less conditions, but they're still going to do fine for you if you can't do all of them like we said. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please click the subscribe button. That does help us know who we're reaching, and it also helps you stay up to date on all the other cool tips and tricks and growing guides we're doing on this channel. And also, if you have any friends that have been interested in growing Cattleya orchids or have been interested in starting one from seed or a seedling, make sure you send them a link to this video, because they're going to enjoy it as well. And also, if you are interested in purchasing anything you saw in this episode, make sure you check the links in the description box below, or head on over to www.larrysorchids.com, where we have everything for sale that you can check out. And so I believe that's it for this episode. This is Luke from Larry's Orchids, thanking you for making us the #1 stop shop for all your orchid and tropical needs. Till next episode, see you. Bye.